What up, everybody? This is Sal with FX Art Desk. Welcome to another episode. I didn't write a script for this episode, so I'm just going to explain what I'm doing in the video, what I'm sculpting. Right now, I'm cutting off his hands because I did some measurements and found out that the hands are out of proportion with the rest of his arm. I used calipers and I used references that I found online with that had hands and arms in measured out and in proportion to each other, how they relate to each other in length. And then I also wanted to take out the armature that I had inside of the hands. The reason why I took out the armature is because, well, first of all, I incorporated an armature inside of his hands because I was using the soft CX5, and I felt that because it was a soft material, that his fingers needed some support, some wire support. But I was thinking that it would be best if it was just all CX5, so I can decide whether or not I wanted to pose them easily. It's not that easy to pose while there's a metal armature inside of his fingers, so I wanted to pose them. I don't know, I just have them in just poses that I just randomly put together. I want one of his hands to be holding a staff. Eventually I'm going to get around to making a staff for darkness. So his hand is going to be clenched around this staff, and it's going to be in a fixed, closed-handed position. So it's unfortunate to spend so much time working on that finger detail and then having to take it apart and ruin all the time it took, ruin all that labor to sculpt all those details. I didn't have that much details in the hands, but hands are really hard to sculpt and draw, so it took me a bit of extra time to get where I was, even though it didn't look that good. So, and then when I was hoping it was gonna be a clean cut away from his forearm, but I ended up taking a chunk out of his forearm, part of his wrist, while I cut his hand off. Right here I'm using an alcohol lamp and a knife to cut through the CX5. I got a jeweler's saw, and maybe I got a jeweler's saw so that I can make some nice cuts, but it takes a bit of time. And I don't know if I guess the jeweler's saw makes cleaner cuts, but it just takes so much time. Using a heated knife works a lot faster, but it makes a thick cut, so there's a give and take. When I took off the hands, they broke apart. Well, the first one broke apart. Right now, I think I'm using the electric skillet to get soft pieces of CX5, and then I divided in half and got equal parts for each hand. Now I'm welding it on, heating up the connection points on the wrist of the hand and the forearm, and then I quickly combine those two pieces together. Right now they look like mittens. You see, right now the hands look in proportion with the rest of the arm, because maybe to the trained eye it doesn't, they look out of proportion, but what I was seeing, I think it was because of how thick I made the arms. Made the hands look like they needed to be extra large. But I made the muscles on his arms a bit too bulky. As I looked at the pictures again, I realized that I made his arms and forearms too thick. In this video, this is a collection of a bunch of clips, like 5 clips. The other one was a long video, and I had a bunch of clips too, but I think this one has more. I sped up the time probably a bit more than I did with the previous video. So it's like just below 30 minutes. Making the fingers, individual fingers. I thought it would be a good idea to make individual fingers at this point. When you're sculpting, it's very important to block out the forms, to get them really basic forms, so that you can figure out the relations, the proportions, without wasting all that time putting in all that detail. I need measure once and measure twice, measure again. That's very important. And I often make that mistake. I end up wasting a bunch of time. Like right now, I'm trying to get those finger details, which I probably shouldn't be doing at this point. I shouldn't even made them individual fingers at this point. It's best to get just block out, leave them as mittens, like geometric looking mittens, at least with a thumb. And you can kind of pose, suggest a position of the fingers by bending the form at the tip where the fingers go just a bit to indicate what kind of pose you want the fingers to get into. But it's best to leave them pretty straight as possible so that you can measure things easier. Eventually, I just ended up kind of sort of combining the figures back together again. You'll see later on. Yeah, this CX5 gets hard quick, so I'm constantly heating it up with alcohol lamp. It's just constant heat that you have to, you don't get much time. You don't get much time at all after it comes out of the skillet. In a matter of minutes, it turns rock hard. And I'm pretty sure you need just a bit more time than that to sculpt with. It doesn't remain putty. It doesn't remain clay consistency long at all. Not that long. You just kind of have to build up the forms real quickly. Make a CX5 armature and then pose it first. Pose it, get it the pose that you want, and then once you got the pose, you at that time you can work out proportions too. And then you quickly build up the forms. So I'm holding the hands together side by side so I can mirror the sculpture and make sure they're symmetrical on both sides. I think that's the main benefit of being able to detach parts from the body, so that you can compare compare the forms together. Trying to work in some anatomy, fix up the anatomy, it looks like. So what I'm doing here, while I'm building up his palm, yeah, I got the skillet going on. I don't normally have the skillet on. I usually have it on when I'm adding CX5 or adding CX5. I don't like running it all the time. Maybe I should, but I got the giant skillet on. I got a smaller one that I was using at first, but I wanted something bigger so that I can put all my CX5 in and work on bigger projects, I guess. I don't know. I think the main thing I got the bigger one was because I wanted to combine all of my CX5. I got CX5 hard and I got CX5 soft. I'm not sure what the ratio is. Maybe it's 50-50. I haven't found. I don't know what the sweet spot is, but I'm assuming that it's 1-to-1 is probably where you want to go, and then depending on how hot the ambient temperature is around where you live, where I live, the ratio might be different. It's currently pretty cold where I'm at, so the CX5 can be on the softer side if I wanted to, but I think it's best to stick to 50-50. I can't go back and forth like, oh, it's summertime, I'm gonna have to add more hard, or make two separate batches, one slightly harder, one slightly softer, and then go to one when it's warmer and go to the one where it's colder, a different one where it's cold when it's colder. I don't want to do that. It seems like it seems like too much to worry about, too much work. It doesn't make sense, like, if I work on a project and it takes a long time, it's not going to stay the same temperature while I'm working on the same project forever. Sometimes I work on a project, well, most of the time I work on a project and I take a long old time off, and then when I start it up, it's at a different time of the year. and I can't change the ratio. It's already a sculpture. Well, maybe I should work faster. I guess I'm giving the impression that I'm a slow worker. No, I don't think that I am. I think if I knew that I was going to get paid to do the stuff that I do, then I would have more of an incentive to work faster. Like, hire me at your company and I'll be there from 9 to 5 or whatever. Set schedule, what schedule you want me to work, and I'll be working as long as I'm sitting in there, sitting at the work table. I'll be sure to get the job done. Yeah, I did a bit too much, spent too much time on these fingers. Anyway, it's practice, so I guess it's not such a big deal. I was trying to figure out how am I supposed to smooth the fingers out. I mean, it's quite different from a large form like an arm. There's not large surface areas, very small surface area. What I realized, what I was thinking is that when the surface area is so small, I can't really hot sand it. I can try, but it's not. It's going to be a lot more difficult. It's going to, I need some area to reach with the hot sanding. And I think when the surface detail is that small, I have no choice but using sanding paper. Or no, I mean lighter fluid. That's the only thing that I would be able to use. So right now I'm reducing his arm. His deltoid, his shoulder, is like a bowling ball. And I was looking at a photo reference, and there's a photo reference on my laptop right behind him, and his shoulder is like a knob. It's very small in relation to how it looks on the sculpture. If I have to reduce his shoulder that much, then that means I have to reduce his entire arm. I have to reduce his arm because his hand is smaller. I reduced the size of his hands. I didn't film that part. It looks like I did that off camera. But if you can tell, his hands look very puny. But they're a lot closer to the proportions of his forearm. constantly having references. As you can see right there, I have Photoshop, and you can use paintbrush as long as you have something that will flip an image. You might have a really good image of a shoulder on one side. You might not be able to find the other side. So when you're working on the other shoulder, the opposite shoulder, it's the only way that you can use a photo reference. I mean, you can try to visualize backwards, but it's very difficult to do that. So it's good to have a program like Photoshop where you can flip it horizontal, and then you can work on the opposite arm. It's very handy when sculpting. And references are very important. You must have, well, for me, I don't have a photographic memory. Good for those people who do. But, I think that most people have the false idea that in order to be a good artist, you have to do everything from without looking at something. But that's not the case. Most pros, all the pros, when they were seriously working on a project, they have photo references in front of them at all times. And that's like the first thing that you should do before you start a sculpture, is like the very first step. You look for, if you're trying to sculpt an animal like a horse or something, look up images, as many images as you can of a horse, and in multiple views, as many views as you can, and then arrange them in however you want into a folder, and then you can just slide through them as you need them. I tried to categorize images, like images that focus on certain parts of the human body. Like right now, I think I'm working on the arm, and I have a folder dedicated to arms, and that picture is in that folder. So yeah, I had reduced quite a bit, and there's going to be more reducing that you'll see later on in my other video. That's my butane torch. Anyway, this video is about to end, so thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.